My name's Obadiah Williamson. I'm a prosecutor. Another day, another trial. Are you ready for your testimony, Mr. Kashari?
I am ready, my friend.
Excellent. With your help, we'll put the criminal behind bars before the day's over.
I'm very glad I could serve my duty as a good citizen. Let us hope that all goes well.
We don't have anything to worry about. I took this case on short notice, but the facts are very clear. There's no doubt in my mind that we have the right man.
Yes, I know that you will see justice served today. The side of judgment and a very nice garnish of truth.
Salim Kashari, the owner of a local diner and the sole witness to a recent murder. It was based on his report that we were able to apprehend the killer, Francisco Mendez. His testimony will be central to our case. Mr. Kashari, would you care to review your statement one last time?
Oh no, my friend, sir, I would not. We spent so much time with that yesterday. My friend, my wife, she was so angry at my coming home so late.
My apologies. I just prefer to have things in order. We are dealing with people's lives in a murder trial. All details must be given the utmost attention. If you do not wish to discuss your statement to the police, I suggest you at least review this recap I had written up.
Oh, that I will do, if you wish it. I must say, Mr. Prosecutor Williamson, your preparation is very impressive. I see that with you, there can be no margin for error. Nice one, Mr. Kashari. Thank you, my friend. I have plenty more after that.
Let's save the joking for later. A trial is a serious matter.
Ah, really, Obi? His funds aren't that bad.
I never say it to Mr. Kashari's face, but yes, they are. The trial starts in a few minutes. We don't have time to waste on humor. And it's either Obadiah or Mr. Williamson. We've been over this. This goofball here is Stephen Jameson. He studied as a defense attorney for 3 weeks before dropping out. Now he's an intern at the prosecutor's office as my assistant. Funny how fate works. He can seem apathetic or airheaded, but he means well. Working in a prosecutor's office will turn any man into a cynic, but he's not quite there yet. His youthful optimism can really make this job bearable sometimes.
Why use my full name? I thought we agreed to call me Jimmy.
And did I mention that he loves periodically coming up with new names for himself? Last month, it was SJ, and the month before, Steve-O the Mighty. Even with how much we've worked together, I've yet to find a reason beyond that he finds it funny. I most certainly don't agree to call him that. He just decided that I did.
We have this thing in the bag. What's wrong with lightening up a bit?
What was the victim's name?
Cindy Stone?
Wrong! And he was a man, not a woman.
Right, of course. I was just testing you.
Let's go over the case details one more time.
No problem. It might be good for you.
Right. For me.
Hey, camera caught your good side. Looking snazzy, Obi.
It's just a photo.
Yeah, sure. A piece of paper could never capture the magnificence of the real thing.
I'm not entirely sure where you're going with this.
Hey, everybody needs a confidence boost now and then, right? Just don't get so self-conscious all the time.
I'm not really that insecure, am I?
Ah, dang it, wrong one. Sorry, can't tell you about that.
You can't tell me about yourself?
I'll get used to it. Okay, I've got a question for you. How do you feel about the Rivales family? How do you really feel about them?
Is this a serious question?
Yes. What are your deepest, most introspective thoughts on them?
You're really asking me this.
Yep.
To answer a question with a question, what do you think I feel about a gang of criminals?
They shouldn't kill people.
You can't get much more to the point than that. You can. You just don't want to.
Same difference. No autopsy?
Not an official one. This case is somewhat of a bureaucratic mess. Regrettably, this was the best I could do.
You use what you've got, right? That's all that should matter.
Indeed, Luciano's dead either way. He was poisoned. We may not even need the full report.
Yeah?
I'm not quite sure why I'm showing you this. I just suddenly got the compulsion to pull it out.
Maybe it does have a certain charm to it. Just don't go around showing it to everybody you see, because that would be weird. So, this Cindy Stone lady, how'd she die again?
Carlo Luciano. He was poisoned.
Right. See, I knew you could do it.
Perhaps you could drop the ignorant act and tell me what else you remember.
He was pretty messed up, right? Some kind of sociopath.
That may well be the case. The man was a hired assassin.
It is so horrible. I cannot believe such a man ate in my restaurant.
He was an evil man, but that does not matter now. He is dead.
Thank God for that.
Mr. Kashari, if I may, I'd advise against making comments like that. However much I personally agree, it may still hurt our case.
Oh, yes. I will avoid it, my friend.
Neither defendant nor victim is anybody I'd want roaming the street. The world would be better to have both of them gone.
The guy that killed him. Why don't you, remind me about him, too?
His name is Francisco Mendez. He's the nephew of crime boss Michael Rivales.
Oh, wow. Sounds serious.
It is. Mendez is a capo in the Rivales family. Putting him away will be a huge blow to them. They've been fighting back, too.
Old Mikey trying to get Mendez cleared even with their bad blood? Weren't they having some kind of spat?
Presumably. Beyond what they let the public see, the inner workings of the family are a mystery to me. I believe having his nephew imprisoned this way would cause him to lose too much face. And he'll need whatever strength he can if relations with the Cavadaverinis fell on any further. Likewise, Mendez has no desire to remain on his uncle's bad side. I believe Mendez betrayed his trust recently and now wishes to make amends. He would want to repair relations just as much as Rivales.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, they really have no choice but to get him off. So this little murder trial is actually a pretty big deal.
No murder case is little, but you are correct.
Well, it's supposed to be open and shut, right? It's no problem.
Everything about the case points to Mendez. The family will be hard-pressed to find him not guilty.
You said Mendez was poisoned, right?
Luciano was poisoned. Mendez is the suspect.
Wow, good thing you're doing this and not me, right?
Why must you do this? I know you read up on it last night. It goes beyond just evidence for him as the culprit. We have a motive and an opportunity placing him as the killer.
And then little Cindy winds up dead. Poor girl.
Well, don't worry. Cindy's killer will get what's coming to him. I really wish this man could take things seriously for just 1 second.
And beyond all that, we got a witness. I remember that part. I'm glad you have not forgotten me, Mr. Jameson. Yeah, I remember your diner was the place where it happened. Yes. Terrible. It was terrible.
Mr. Kashari says he saw Mendez with the victim shortly before he died.
It's true. The men were meeting with that little girl. Then she left and the one-eyed man died after that. The girl. I remember that part too. The poor child. If I knew, things would happen differently. It's sad.
It's sad, but irrelevant. The murder is completely unrelated. I've reviewed the basics of the incident, but our concern is Luciano's murder.
Well, that's cold. The kid got stolen.
Yes, it's horrible, but it is not my case. Another prosecutor was assigned to the kidnapping. They are separate crimes.
Maybe. I just wish I could help.
You must learn to look at these things more objectively. I promise you putting away Mr. Mendez will save many more people than one girl. With the evidence, motive, and witness testimony, there's a rather damning case against him.
Wouldn't that suck for him if he's just being set up?
I don't have any pay for the man. He's a ruthless mobster. He chose this life. If he's being framed, that will be up to the defense to prove.
Gotcha.
And speaking of the defense, you were to research Mendez's attorney.
I found some stuff, but a lot of it's just rumors.
The good or bad type.
He's developing a bit of a reputation. They say he'll do anything for that not guilty verdict. Sounds like a prideful guy.
That would be why he took this case.
Uh-huh. It's a big one, so winning it would be like a prestige thing for him.
I've faced people like that before. I know how to deal with them.
Well, of course you do, buddy. Never said it'd be a problem.
Prosecutor Williamson, the trial will be starting in precisely 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. That's 10 minutes to get our bench in order.
You never were just one to just wing it.
What must I do, Mr. Prosecutor Williamson?
We won't need you to testify right away. There's another witness coming before you. You may wait in here until I call for you.
Certainly. I shall be waiting like corn. All ears. Ha 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 ha!
As prosecutor, I have access to all the evidence in the case from the beginning. I've been over the court record several times already, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to check things through once more.
That's the guy over there that I was talking about. You see him? You'd have to be crooked for the mob to hire him.
Funny you say that. He actually looks quite calm and collected.
Well, stay on your toes, Obi. I heard one guy even call him the devil.
Don't call me that while we're in court.
Sure, whatever you say, Obi.
The devil, huh? How dramatic do they need to be?
Court is now in session for the trial of Francisco Mendez. Are the defense and prosecution ready?
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready as well.
You're Mr. Gavin, aren't you? I've heard the name, but I don't think you've ever defended in one of my trials.
Not until today, Your Honor.
Well, I've heard some promising things about you. It seems you're a competent lawyer.
Thank you. I am to live up to your expectations.
Oh-ho! And confident, too. Well, you sure know how to impress.
A cocky upstart? I certainly hope this isn't what all the fuss was over.
And the prosecution? You seem well prepared.
How flattering and condescending. Yet, as I seem to recall, we have a trial to begin. How about we start it?
Such a shame there's no time for pleasantries. You're quite the stick in the mud.
Oh ho ho! You have no idea.
Your Honor!
I mean, please refrain from verbal attacks on Mr. Williamson.
Of course, Your Honor. He does have a point, though. Let's hear the opening statements.
Your Honor, the court will see that this is a very simple case. The victim, Carlo Luciano, was poisoned while eating at a restaurant. We have evidence, a witness, and a motive. Everything points to the defendant as the culprit.
That doesn't sound good at all for you, Mr. Gavin.
We'll see.
Mr. Williamson, I'm interested in hearing more about your case. Would you mind showing us the evidence against the suspect?
Of course. This won't be difficult. I have everything prepared in my court record. First of all, I'll address the physical evidence we have against Mendez.
Very good. What is the decisive evidence?
Take that.
We have a bottle of the poison that killed Luciano. Mr. Mendez's fingerprints are on it.
Eh? Fingerprints? Yes, that is strong evidence.
The victim's plate was found with traces of poison on it. It was the same type from the bottle.
Where was this bottle found?
In the restaurant, stashed underneath the table where he was killed.
Well, that wasn't a very good cover-up. He should have at least bothered trying to hide it.
Do you want my job to be harder?
Now then, moving on. You mentioned a witness. Who is the witness to the murder?
Take that.
The witness is Mr. Salim Kashari, the owner and head chef of the diner. He served the victim and defendant their meals.
Was anyone else there at the time?
At the moment of death, there were only 3 people in the building.
Odd. I seem to recall that there were others.
I said at the moment of death. There were others, but by the time Luciano died, they were long gone.
You're going to dismiss them as suspects so easily?
It simply is not possible that either of those 2 people did it. Were you looking to accuse one of them, Mr. Gavin?
The child and mafia enforcer should not be passed off as irrelevant.
Yes or no?
We'll see.
What's all this, eh? A child and an enforcer?
The 2 were with Mr. Mendez and the victim. They left early, leaving only the latter. It wasn't until roughly 15 minutes later that the victim died.
One of them couldn't have poisoned him beforehand?
It's a quick-acting agent. He would have died long before.
Well then, I think we are in agreement that they didn't kill him. Mr. Gavin?
No comment.
Very well. Now, didn't you say he had a motive as well? I'd like to hear about that.
Yes, Your Honor. The motive was very simple.
Whoop, that's not it.
Take that.
His motive was the $1 million bounty on Luciano's head.
1 million?
No small sum.
My word! What could he possibly do to deserve that?
Luciano was an assassin, Your Honor. A high-profile one on the family's payroll. He's killed many people. As such, he's made enemies. Rich enemies.
A hired assassin? I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You're not sure about that? Luciano was a monster. There's no other way of putting it. He was a vicious killer. However, he's not the one on trial here. Luciano was the victim. Our killer today was a completely different person.
You refer to my client?
That is correct. The defendant, Francisco Mendez, is every bit as ruthless as his victim.
I'm not sure that's possible. It sounds like he did us all a favor.
Helping society was the last thing going through Mendez's head, I assure you. Once again, let me point you to the bounty. A price that large can only point to a motive of greed. This wasn't vigilantism, it was for money.
Killing for money? That's just what the victim did. You're right, Mr. Williamson. He doesn't sound much better.
Your Honor, you disappoint me. You're going to accept this?
$1 million is more than enough motive for murder.
Yes, it would be. For anyone. It could apply to any person, anywhere, at any time. Every single person who entered the restaurant that day would have had just as much incentive.
I'll grant you that. However, the trial has just begun. Let's hear from one of our witnesses. The prosecution calls the arresting officer to the stand. Please state your name and occupation for the court.
Nathan Tomagara, Detective, Homicide Division.
What was your role in this case, Detective?
Kashari called us after the murder. I was nearby, so I made the arrest. Mendez never even had time to leave the property. Oh, wow, that's quite the response time. I'm very reliable. Well, I'd say so. I'm glad you're with the good guys.
Mr. Tomagara, in addition to the arrest, did you also lead the investigation?
I did not. There was another man assigned to the scene.
Why are we not hearing from him instead?
Several of Mendez's friends have tried to delay the prosecution. Due to this, the lead detective will not be testifying.
The Rivales family, Judge. Such a thing would only pass in this city. This hive of scum and villainy allows blatant corruption.
Calm down, Detective. No need to get agitated. All their efforts will soon be in vain.
Yes, of course, you're right.
Wow, isn't this guy a character?
That he is.
Shall we begin? Your Honor, I'd like to hear the report on my client's arrest.
That sounds good. Detective, would you please testify for us?
I
entered the building at precisely 7:34 p.m. I recognized Mendez from the description given and apprehended him. Due to the facts I was operating alone, I had to do it by myself. Once he'd been subdued, I approached the crime scene where I found Luciano. I called for backup and had them remove Luciano to police custody immediately. There's no mistaking he was dead. There was blood everywhere!
Hold it. That last part. Blood everywhere? Just what kind of murder are we dealing with?
A poisoning!
And yet there was blood everywhere?
That was Mr. Tomek Guerra being dramatic. You'll find, Mr. Gavin, that he's that way often.
Yes, I figured as much. That's not the part that bothers me. Why was there any blood at all? Blood implies a struggle, yet we haven't heard anything about one.
I believe I can explain that.
Take that.
Dang it.
Excuse me?
I think what he's trying to say is that a penalty is in order here.
Idiot. I certainly hope I never become as rude as this man.
Alright, autopsy instead.
Take that.
The poison that was used is known for affecting the nervous and digestive systems. After consuming it, Luciano passed out. His body instinctively vomited, carrying some blood in the process. He remained unconscious for some time before his nervous system fully failed, killing him.
So the blood was from his, throw up.
A nasty way to go.
Well, that explains that. Any further questions, Mr. Gavin? Yes. Unconscious for several minutes, you say? We don't have an autopsy report, so there's no way to know when Luciano truly passed away. I want to know if he was still living, albeit unconscious, when he got there.
I'm not sure.
What a shame.
Eh? No autopsy?
No, Your Honor. Another effect of the Ravalis family's interference.
Oh, that's no good. Why on earth would they bother with that?
To throw off the case, Your Honor. There may be evidence regarding the body that points to the suspect.
My. How could they possibly have any leverage over an autopsy?
Simply put, Luciano worked for them.
Yikes! That's right.
Carlo Luciano was an assassin for the family. From what we can tell, he was their top hitman.
If that's the case, I think you've just killed your own motive. Forgive the metaphor.
What do you mean, Mr. Gavin?
Are we forgetting that my client is also with the family? And a high-ranking officer at that? What good would killing his own subordinate do?
That is a good point, eh? Why don't you explain your argument for us a bit better?
Certainly, Your Honor. My client and Luciano were partners, not enemies. In addition, he is very wealthy. What would $1 million matter to him? The family pays him very well, and they would not support the killing of their own assassin. Apart from the bounty, what motive could Mendez have? It seems his motive was not as clear as you say it was.
Well, you make a compelling argument. Mr. Williamson, what are your thoughts, eh?
On principle, I must disagree.
Let's hear your rebuttal then.
Of course, Mr. Gavin. Without the motive, we still have a witness and evidence. However, I should find a way to break this. It might be important later.
In addition, he is very wealthy. Oh, right, yeah, that. Already did that. And profile.
Objection.
The money was not for himself. It was for his uncle and their gang.
That's a bold move, accusing a man like him. Will he be going now to say that the Ravalis was in on the death?
I can't do that. There's no evidence for it. Isn't something either Ravalis or Mendez would ever admit. But I can say this. Michael Ravalis is a shrewd man. Currently, Ravalis would want to do whatever he could to strengthen his gang.
What do you mean by currently?
Do you believe Michael Ravalis was aware the murder would occur?
It's not something I plan to pursue at the moment, but it seems likely. Tensions between the Ravalis and the Cadaverinis are high right now. The police are worried an all-out gang war could happen. If that's the case, Ravalis would do anything he could to be prepared.
A gang war? I'm not sure how I feel about that. Mendez is not on spectacular terms with his uncle as of recently. Why would he have worked for his benefit? To me, it doesn't make much sense. Why not just kill Luciano and take the money to spite Ravalis? And you said that the family was delaying the prosecution. Why would Ravalis help keep his hated nephew out of prison?
Their bad blood seems to be recent. If my theories are correct, Mendez may be responsible for the current situation with the Cadaverinis. I believe he and Luciano caused the mess, and now Mendez is trying to regain favor with his uncle.
By killing the victim? No charges have been brought against the mob leader then.
We can't connect him to the crime, so no, he did not kill Luciano. For all I can be certain, Mendez was working alone.
He's not the killer, but he arranged it, alright. He set them up with that girl, the one he kidnapped.
A kidnapping?
No, that's not what I meant.
Don't stop now, detective. What did you just say?
The little girl seen in the diner had been kidnapped.
Well now, isn't that an interesting thing to discuss?
The girl is not related to the murder. Here's that camera. I explicitly told him to avoid the topic.
Overruled. Please continue, detective. Kashari says he saw the girl with the man before she was taken away. Based on his description of her, we believe it to be Pearl Fay, a child who recently vanished. Just a few nights ago, she disappeared. A family friend received a threatening phone call after. The family denies involvement, but it's obvious they're lying.
Yet, as I've stated, neither her nor the enforcer escorting her killed Luciano. The poison's effect kicked in too quickly.
You can't downplay this, Williamson. She may not have killed him, but her presence opens up a whole new motive for murder. And that in itself will open up the possibility of more suspects.
Nonsense! Togamera, you fool!
Is it really too hard to believe? After all, it is a much more noble motive. Killing for money? That's horrible. But killing to rescue a child? Why, that's something any good Samaritan might be willing to do. You believe this girl is Pearl Fay? Her family wishes to see her return. Anybody who does it will be a hero.
But that makes no sense. What good would killing her captor do after she'd been long gone? You know the poison was administered after she'd left.
Yeah, that's not right. You couldn't rescue her if she'd already left the building. Anybody seeing a kidnapped child would want to do something. I might not have been able to rescue her, but still. Just think of those evil men still walking free. It would be horrible to think of. Enraging, even.
Are you admitting that your client is a kidnapper?
Only that it may have appeared he was one. And that is all that matters. It sounds as though the prosecution didn't think enough of the kidnapping. It's clearly more important than they thought.
It isn't.
It is an interesting thing to consider. Thank you, Your Honor. As you can see, it gives our case a whole new meaning. Anybody who knew of the missing girl will be on the lookout for her. There is my new suspect for the moment. Anyone. And what are the prints on the bottle, huh? All in good time, young man. I'll get around to that eventually, but I'm just getting warmed up. Your Honor, I'd like to continue our argument on Mr. Mendez's motive.
I believe you're right. Let's discuss this some more then. Mr. Gavin, if you will.
Now, instead of one possible motive, we have two. A reward for a killing, and a rescue. It seems we have reason to suspect more people than just the defendant. He's still trying to break down that motive.
Never mind that. Even if he succeeds, we still have plenty.
Yeah, you don't really need a motive if you can prove beyond a doubt he did it.
Why would Mr. Gavin need to focus this much on the motive at this point in the trial? I'd still fight the argument, but if I can't, no matter. We'll just move on to the real meat of this case.
Hold it.
I've given an explanation for this. You've yet to counter it.
Perhaps, since your case is based on the bounty, perhaps you could explore further.
What do you wish to know?
Why was it out there in the first place? Who put it up?
So far, nobody has admitted to it. We believe it was the Cadaverinis. Cadaverini? As in that mobster, Bruto Cadaverini? Bruto was assassinated just a few weeks back, you'll recall. Rumor has it Carlo Luciano was spotted in the area the night he was slain.
Ah, yes, that's right. That must be why tensions are so high.
The Cadaverinis believe Michael Ravalis was behind the attack. There have been threats of a gang war. Ravalis has denied everything.
I imagine he'd want to placate the Cadaverinis any way he could. They're not to be messed with. Would Luciano have been working alone?
Given his status, we may never know. Ravalis is a ruthless man, but he's no fool. He wouldn't risk it. Short of somebody in the know flat out admitting it, it may remain a mystery.
Interesting. Say you were right. How angry would Michael Ravalis be at Luciano? If I were him, I'd be furious for going behind my back.
It may be why we have a dead assassin on our hands now. Though truth be told, we've only found one poster so far.
Thank you for this information. It's been very enlightening.
Eh? What are you getting at?
A bounty from the Cadaverini family? Just how likely would they be to pay Ravalis? He's one of their biggest competitors.
That's right! They suspected his hitman of killing Bruto.
Please don't tell me the big bad old Michael Ravalis killed Luciano just to avoid a gang war. I've heard too much about this man to assume he's that much of a pushover. Wow, you've walked right into that one.
Not now, Mr. Jameson.
Prosecutors aren't the only ones who can set them. Say it with me. It's a trap.
Not now.
Hold it.
I must admit, I didn't have as much time as I would like to investigate. How did you come by your information on the child?
Why, her grandmother told me. Shall we call her and find out? I promise you my source is legitimate.
Has anyone found the young girl yet?
That's a negative.
We can't even charge her captors because there's no proof. Mr. Kashari is the only one who may have seen her, and he couldn't even ID her definitively. Well, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Your Honor, if Mr. Mendez was supposedly kidnapped the girl, would he really try to return her?
It could be a ransom.
I think not. They would have made demands, but of course the old lady has received none. If he kidnapped her, they would not kill Luciano to return her.
A good point. I'd like to hear more of your thoughts on this.
As you can see, there's little reason to think my client would have done it for either reason.
It seems so.
Remember what I just said though, this should be open up a motive for other people. Once we accept the possibility that he is not the only suspect, a whole variety of scenarios can be seen.
Blast it! You think you'll tear my case apart so easily?
It's a bit silly to claim we're open for more suspects when we've still only got the one. I was expecting better from this Gavin guy.
We've yet to delve into anything of actual significance, but I suspect he's playing it that way. I still have cards up my sleeve, and I'm sure he does as well. If you'd prefer a literary term, he's merely setting up the exposition.
Leading right into his trap, yeah? Those cards won't play themselves. Let's get to it, old man.
And here I was thinking that Obi was bad. This is just getting started for both of us, Mr. Gavin. We haven't even touched on the real meat of this case. Now, it begins!
Objection.
The prosecution will acknowledge that Mr. Mendez's motive is not quite clear.
Don't feel bad. The ability to admit defeat is a quality of greatness.
Your condescending remarks are meaningless. You haven't won anything yet. Mr. Gavin, you seem to be forgetting something very important.
Yes?
Hard proof. Fingerprints on the murder weapon. Care to explain your way out of that? Or how about this? A witness who saw the two together moments before the death? And honestly, what compelled you to argue against a motive of monetary gain? Perhaps Mendez is just the same as any other villain. Greedy. Whatever the motive may have been, there's still much against the defendant.
I see. I'll admit my case could be explained a bit more.
I would certainly hope so. You've done nothing so far but waste our time with possibilities. I have physical proof pointing to the defendant. You cannot ignore it forever.
Ah, yes. I was brought up at the very beginning of the trial.
Forgotten already, had you? This court cannot convict a man on motive alone, nor will he be cleared by it.
Aha! You wish to call your next witness.
Of course. The man saw the crime. Let's hear from him.
Prosecutor, if you're finished with me, I'll depart. I have other plans to attend to.
So quick to get out of here, detective? Well, no matter. We no longer need you. That man bothers me. I can't quite decide why. Please state your name and occupation for the court.
I am Salim Kashani. I'm a chef at a restaurant. Don't be so humble, buddy. You don't work there. You run the place. Aha! You're right, my friend. A restaurant? What kind? It's only a small one, Mr. Your Honor. We have a very small staff. I must cook the food myself also. Oh, you must be busy. Are you any good? I must be modest, Mr. Your Honor, but many people have told me it is very good. Best in the city. The number 7 set is great. Ah, maybe, but beware of that one, because 7, 8, 9. Ah, 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 ah.
Ugh, did you have to set him up for that? Moving on, the victim was killed in Mr. Kashari's diner. Once the enforcer left with the girl, he was one of the 3 men left in the building. The other 2, of course, being Mendez and Luciano.
Yes, we had a few customers this day. I sent the rest of my staff home early. I'm sure they were grateful after learning what happened. Oh, they were. Thank God I was the only one who had to see it. Did you, sir? When I spoke to you the other day, it sounded an awful lot like you didn't. You. Are you calling me a liar?
Hear first the actual moment of the crime. You didn't see either the poisoning or its subsequent death, only the results.
Yes, then you are right. I did not. What did you say? I found him after he was dead. Well, if that's all you have to tell us, we may as well get on with it. You! Give me some respect! I did not ask for this. Unfortunate. You seem very hot-headed. I must remember to tread carefully around you, Mr. Kashari.
Please, Mr. Kashari, just tell us what happened. The court will hear your whole story.
Yes, Mr. Prosecutor Williamson. I served food to the 2 men after the others went. While they ate, I stepped into the kitchen for just a moment. When I came back, the one-eyed man was dead. I called the police immediately, and Mr. Togamera arrived quickly. Thank you. Now I have a few questions. First of all, the others? What do you mean? The girl and the big man, of course. The kidnapped child.
Pearl Fay and Wayne Parker, presumably, though we can only speculate on the former.
Just speculation?
Mr. Kashari didn't have a name to go on. He only knew her briefly by appearance.
I didn't think it was strange, you see. She didn't seem any different from any other child who comes into my restaurant. I did not know she was kidnapped. Those awful men. And this fellow, Mr. Parker, couldn't you have just questioned him?
According to him, he was not told the identity of the girl. In any case, the man is rather spineless, to put it bluntly. There's no chance he would say anything his employers didn't want him to.
Now, Mr. Kashari, you said you stepped out. Why? I was the only one working all day, so the work was my duty. I had spilled a big mess while making the food, and I went back for the cleaning. How long did you spend on that? Not long, not long. It was only a few minutes. Your 2 customers were alone during this time? Yes, you are right. How did you know? How do I know? They were the only 2. I am not a fool, Mr. Attorney Gavin.
Objection.
Calm yourself, Mr. Kashari. Let me handle this. Allow me to explain. This is how Mr. Kashari is 100% sure they were alone.
Take that.
The door leading into the restaurant is equipped with a small bell. It alerts the owners whenever somebody goes in or out.
Of course, they are very common.
Does that satisfy you, Mr. Gavin?
Partially. I mentioned the mess was large. Did you ever clean it up?
Objection.
Hey, what exactly does that have to do with the murder? Leave the prosecutor to your boss, young man. I'm sure he knows what the matter is. You aren't the only one who can investigate a crime scene. That mess was never cleaned up.
Mr. Gavin, is there something you're trying to insinuate here?
Mr. Kashari went into the kitchens to clean a mess, but it never happened. Witness, care to elaborate?
Why, I saw the body, of course.
I knew a man died. That was more important.
You would not just clean a mess then either.
Maybe it's time to bring out the big guns finally. I believe you are lying, Mr. Kashari.
What?
But why?
Lying? Why on earth?
Your story does not add up. You were in the kitchen, ergo you should not have seen anything.
Mr. Gavin, this is hardly professional. Accusing a man of perjury with no proof? The witness does not deserve that.
I expected I should elaborate more. Well, here they are. Mr. Kashari claims he went into the kitchen to clean a mess. I say he's lying. He could not have seen the body while he was in there, so how did he know? I say he knew about it beforehand. As good a reason as A to lie. And why would he lie? Simple. He was involved.
Now, don't you think we're jumping the gun a bit? The witness only just started talking.
When I see a contradiction, I point it out. This is a logical conclusion.
Objection!
Logical smagical. Mr. Kashari's a stand-up guy. Any idiot can see the problem with what he's saying. What are we gonna do about this?
Counter the accusation and clear him. It's the only thing to do. Mr. Gavin knows I have to protect my witness. He's leading the trial where he wants. I get the feeling he's planned quite a bit. I sense a trap.
Objection!
You seem to be making a habit of overlooking things. Not a desirable quality.
Go quick to judge.
Judging others is part of my job. Take a look at the restaurant's floor plans. The victim and suspect were here. The kitchen was over here. And a huge
wall between them.
Yes, but another huge thing as well.
Take that!
There is a service window covering a good chunk of that wall.
A window?
It is the one thing, is one that's used to deliver food to customers from the kitchen. It's not tall, but it's big enough to the people in the kitchen can look through.
Ah, I've seen those in restaurants before.
Of course, Mr. Your Honor. They are very common.
Using this window, it would have been very easy to notice that Luciano was dead. This was the case, was it not, Mr. Kashari?
You are correct, Mr. Prosecutor. I saw him that way.
You see, Gavin's logic has a hole just as big as this window.
Oh my, what a clumsy mistake of me. I'm very sorry.
After an accusation like that, I'll have to penalize you, Mr. Gavin.
Understood. I'll take the hit. Aha! Even after all you have mustered, you cannot catch up to Mr. Williamson. Ah ha ha ha! He seems calm. Too calm. I'm betting he set that up again.
It's possible. He's no idiot.
I think I've seen enough. I know the truth behind this murder.
Do you now?
I hope you will not still persecute me. I did nothing wrong. Patience, my anger-prone friend. I will explain everything. Well, I suppose there's no subtle way to say this. But here I go. Salim Kashari killed Luciano.
Ah!
Hey! You can't do that!
Nonsense! He would have no reason to try for the bounty.
A bounty?
If you'll recall, Detective Togomera stated we've only found the one poster. If that's true, there isn't much chance Mr. Kashari would recognize Luciano.
Ah, yes, that bounty. That's true. But aren't you forgetting something? The girl.
The girl?
Forget the auntie. I'm speaking of Miss Faye's rescue. Kashari seems to have a strong sense of justice and a hatred of criminals. And he is quite a hot-tempered man as well. I wonder if he thought he recognized the child from the news. He was furious at the two men. He thought something had to be done. To directly confront two powerful mobsters? It would be suicide. But to use a more covert method? Poison, perhaps?
Objection.
We searched the whole place and we didn't find any poison but the one bottle. Cut the crap, why don't you?
He's right. There is nothing pointing to the witness, Mr. Gavin.
Your Honor, the defense will present this bottle found at the crime scene. It contained the same poison as before, but it lacks something very important. Mr. Mendez's fingerprints.
Order! Order! Everybody calm down at once!
Mr. Gavin, where did that come from? Where did you find that bottle?
Me? I'm not the one who found it. Detective Trollmatter did. It was stashed in a cabinet of the diner's kitchen. You can confirm it with him if you wish. Let the court test the vial. I believe you'll be quite interested in what you find.
You rotten man! I know what you were doing!
Me? Rotten? I haven't killed anyone, which is more than some of us here can say. Beyond Mendez, only one person has the opportunity to poison the victim's food. That's with you, Mr. Kashari. You killed him.
Hold on a moment. Mr. Gavin, I'd like for you to explain your reasoning.
Yes, of course. First, recall that our suspects are rather limited. Prosecutor Williamson just proved that any of the three men would have noticed another entering. Nobody else, including the girl and enforcer, could have poisoned Luciano. However, that leaves two men with the perfect opportunity. My client, and their chef. Mendez was the Luciano the whole time. The Kashari? Nobody knows because he was alone. He sent home the whole staff, miraculously on the day a murder occurred. He also had a very good way of knowing what the two customers were doing with the window. He could easily see them, while it would be harder for them to watch him. Furthermore, Mr. Mendez's motive is sketchy at best. Yet we have a very lovely one for the witness.
Objection.
Is this why you spent so much time on the motive?
I knew Fatal Fame must be important to the case. It's a shame you overlooked her. Plus, remember, the police aren't sure that the girl was Profe. Yet Mr. Kashari himself seemed rather certain now. Why? He thought he recognized her, and that is why he killed Luciano. He was furious at the man who kidnapped your child and wanted to rid the world of him. Pure, cold-hearted vigilantism. Kashari has the perfect motive. I am not the killer! And the evidence tells us who is. Once the police have given the results from the test, the truth will be apparent.
Mr. Gavin, are you going to ignore everything against your client?
Hot meat kettle, Williamson. I presented a compelling case. I have a solid motive, while you lack one. The two suspects had equal amount of opportunity. And when the vial is tested, you'll see there is physical evidence as well. The least you can do is wait and see.
Ah, you condescending little...
His second capsule will be tested for fingerprints. While we are waiting on it, the court will adjourn for a recess.
Splendid. I will see you all later.
Mr. Prosecutor Williamson, please do not let him do this.
Don't worry, you're safe with me, Mr. Kashari.
Obadiah. Prosecutor's lobby, please.
My thoughts exactly. Let's get some quiet. All my careful planning undone so quickly. I have to salvage this case and get it back on course. If I don't...
Open and shut, huh? This whole thing just got turned around.
We can still fight him. Our case still has more ground. The defense can't argue with the fingerprints on the poison bottle.
With the luck he's having, it's only a matter of time.
It's not luck.
Obi, I've got a really bad feeling about this.
Me too, Mr. Jameson. David is rubbing me in all the wrong ways. You said you researched him? What do we know?
I just skimmed his records. He sat on the Bar Association for a few years. Most of his votes have gone just how you'd expect. Nothing too strange.
You say most?
He doesn't like to rock the boat a lot. But there was one time a while back, some attorney who forged evidence. Our friend Christoph was the only one to vote in favor of him. Doesn't sound weird, but then you hear he's been close friends with the guy ever since.
So he had a conflict of interest. He shouldn't have sat at the hearing. That's the bar's fault just as much as his.
Well, you hear that, though. That lawyer, was Phoenix Wright.
Phoenix Wright?
The same.
The same Phoenix Wright who the child was...
Who Pearl Fay was staying with the night she vanished. And Kristoff's all buddy-buddy with the guy.
Who reported the kidnapping?
It was Wright. Kinda sad. He supposedly had some kind of really great reputation. You know, before the whole illegal evidence thing.
Now I remember the name. The nearly unbeatable rookie attorney. He defeated so many of my colleagues. Prosecutors who never lost a case. That must be how? How many guilty men did he get cleared? Gavin voted in his favor? And they've kept in contact? And now Gavin's trying to get my star witness convicted in Mendorez's place. With a piece of evidence that has shown up, seemingly out of nowhere. Friends with a man disbarred for forgery. It all makes sense.
Obi, if you clench your teeth any harder, they're gonna fall out.
Mr. Jameson, when a married person is found dead, who is often the lead suspect?
The spouse, of course.
Yes, the person with closest access.
Look, I know what you're thinking, right? And I agree. But you have to admit, it's a long shot. There's no proof. It's all circumstantial.
Yes, the kidnapping isn't our case.
Kidnapping a little girl and now trying to blame poor Mr. Kashari on a murder. Why would they do it?
The girl she must be connected to the murder somehow. Gavin can't admit she's a Fae child, but neither can you deny her presence or our suspicions. He wants to use that against us to set Mendorez free.
Do you really think it was him? Do you think Phoenix Wright kidnapped Pearl Fay?
All circumstantial. I could never prove it. Phoenix Wright, if you did it, I'll see you burn in the pit of hell for this.
So that's why. That's why you've held a grudge against me. You thought I was some kind of monster.
I've pig-headedly held on to that thought since that day. I could never prove you'd done it, because of course you hadn't. Miss Pearl was responsible for her own disappearance in the end, as we found out. And as it turns out, you never forged anything. Everything I was ever certain about you turned out to be a lie.
And Jimmy?
He was committed to finding Miss Fay. Like me, he spent most of these years on the wrong track, assuming that she'd actually been kidnapped. But he's a better judge of character than me. From the moment you two spoke, he believed it was never you. I wasn't quite so ready to accept that I may have been wrong.
Jimmy was murdered because he was getting too close to the truth. Something about MN6 must have been worth killing over. You know what it was?
No. Even now I don't have all the answers. Ms. Pearl has been found and the case was closed long ago.
But there must be more.
More.
You ended the trial at a recess. Are you going to tell me what happened next?
Eventually. I'm a busy man and so are you. I don't have all day to tell stories. I may not be prosecuting tomorrow, but I still have matters to attend to.
You're not prosecuting?
I withdrew from the case due to the circumstances. I hope you understand.
Of course I do. I think I'd do the same in your place. We'll be replacing you.
You're in good hands. From what I understand, you two have already met. The chief prosecutor himself had a hand in arranging it.
Chief prosecutor? I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I'll be watching you from the gallery. I'm still deeply invested in the case, regardless of whether or not I'm at the bench. All the answers are about to reveal themselves.
And stopping point.